Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth Shaw and this channel is all about the narcissistic personality disorder to give you more understanding of those that you might be dealing with in your life and different ways to recover from narcissistic abuse, and also how to handle yourself around those that you cannot go no contact with. This video is about some relatively new research that narcissists might be lacking in critical thinking skills, which then affects communication with a narcissist. When it comes to communication with a narcissist, be it your parents, partners, siblings, boss, friends, co-workers, or trying to co-parent with one, whoever the narcissist is in your life, fear and panic can hit hard. Learning how to stand up for yourself and speak in your mind to them, to be yourself around them. Then when you do try to get your point of view across, enforce your boundaries, it can be one of the most emotionally draining, hurtful, confusing, and at times scary experiences. Conversations with a narcissist at times are impossible. You can communicate with them. You can communicate with anybody. All we have to do is open our mouths and talk. That's communication. Yet having a conversation with them about something they have done, finding a compromise, finding the middle ground, trying to work through issues together is virtually impossible. Trying to get them to see our points of view. One of the best methods to recover from this kind of emotional abuse is no contact. Yet in some cases this isn't always possible. And in some cases, as the disorder is on a spectrum, they are on the lower end of the spectrum. These are when it's best to learn how they work and how to handle yourself around them so you don't end up left feeling angry, hurt and confused. When you feel yourself going during a conversation with them, it is always best to retreat, rethink and then only respond if you need to do so. A conversation with a narcissist is crazy making. They will provoke you, switch the topic, talk over you, play the victim, gaslight you, triangulate you, or fall silent. Anger and rage when they don't get what they want. Now, this could be down to learned behaviour from childhood of always getting what they want by having tantrums, or it could simply be that they just do not understand why we don't see their way. Just like we don't understand to begin with how they do not see our way. Yet we are capable of learning. As they don't understand, sometimes a simple conversation that they can take as criticism if it doesn't match exactly what they think, provoking their defense mechanisms and creating rage and anger in them, even though that wasn't our intentions. Or when you just want them to say sorry, give closure, yet they seem either unwilling or unable to do so. Now, some narcissistic people are highly toxic and highly dangerous. These are more the narcissistic sociopath or the narcissistic psychopath. Only you know the kind of narcissist that you've been dealing with, but the more you stand your ground to them, the more all hell seems to break loose and you are left constantly on the lookout for the next game. So here's a little more information on why a narcissist cannot see your point of view, cannot say sorry, and always seems to work against you. As it's always their way or you will suffer way, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can lead them to think something was their idea. This will not work with all narcissistic people, but with some, if you can lead them to think that something was their idea to begin with, true to narcissist form, if they believe it's their idea, they will go with it. This comes in quite handy if you're trying to co-parent, letting them. You've kind of got to lose a bit of your pride and ego. So if they're asking for a day and you've got something on, if you can juggle it around just to fit in, and I know it's not an easy thing to do when someone pushes your buttons all the time to give them what they want, so to speak, but if it makes your life more peaceful and if it makes the children's lives more peaceful, doing that sort of thing to make them think it's their idea and just rolling with it, even though you know you're doing it for a more peaceful life. That is always the best approach. And yes, some will up the games then. You just have to learn the patterns of behaviour and keep going around counteracting what they do. Now, it does seem manipulative, which stops a lot of people doing it. So long as you're doing it so that your relationship works better either with your parents or your boss or for your children, to have a relationship with the co-parent. So long as it's not out of spite to cause hurt or pain, you're doing it to see healthier results all round and not to be harmful. And yes, there is some narcissistic people you cannot do this with and you need to go no contact with. New research shows that narcissists are less likely to use critical thinking as they are lacking in their cognitive reflection skills. This is good news for those of you that question, am I the narcissist? Which most of us do when we first start learning about the disorder. Another reason why you're not a narcissist. When you overthink and over-reflect and over-question so much from your past, you are not a narcissist. Also, another reason why narcissists act on impulse and can simply walk away, taking everything with them without even a glance back. Grandiose and victim narcissists differ in their cognitive reflection skills. The grandiose narcissist is the type most people think about when they hear the word narcissist. Arrogant, superiority, entitled, usually highly successful, and come across as having a very high self-esteem to the outside world. And most are quite extroverted, but not all. Vulnerable narcissists come across as insecure to those closest to them. They are more defensive and often, yet not always, more introverted. Most narcissists do act on impulse and are unable to reflect on what they did wrong, whilst others are more calculated and once they've made a choice are less able to reflect on that choice and just roll with it. Both the grandiose and the vulnerable narcissists are self-centered and can be highly impulsive. Even if they don't act on impulse all the time, once they've made a choice, they stick with it. And they don't have the ability to reflect correctly on it, see it from another person's viewpoint or change their mind. Once they've set a plan into action, they just roll with it and stick to their truths, their false reality. A vulnerable narcissist is most likely to reflect temporarily, but only in a process that is namely about the narcissist, me, myself and I, and not usually for the benefit of others, which is why you can occasionally get an apology from a narcissist, although usually it's twisted round on something you did, because they've had that moment of reflection that their needs aren't getting met. So they'll give a quick apology to get their needs met, and then once their needs are met, they revert back to who they are because that reflection process is gone again. Most narcissists seem to lack the ability to make a choice based on critical thinking skills. And even when they are wrong, lacking in cognitive reflection means they're also not as able as those not on the spectrum to effectively reflect on the choices they have made in their life. The narcissistic personality disorder is on a spectrum, so there is those that might be able to, yet that's often rarely to never. And as I've said, they revert back to their original way of thinking once their needs have been met. Narcissists are far less likely to use critical thinking, which is important to make good, sound decisions, and the ability to solve problems in life, the ability to communicate correctly with people. Cognitive reflection is a person's having the ability to reflect on something they might have done wrong, mistakes they have made. Narcissists instead override any thought of what they could have done, what they could have done wrong, and not reflect on their own actions. If others perceive them as doing something wrong, they will cling on to the fact that they are right, as they are unable to reflect and find ways of making their actions or behaviour correct. which is why no one can throw a bigger tantrum than a narcissist being shown facts and evidence of something that they definitely did do, yet don't want others to think they are wrong. The whole, that didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't my fault, and if it was, then you made me do it. Critical thinking is having the ability to analyse facts, to form judgment, the ability to think clearly and rationally, then understand the logic between ideas or actions, and the ability to engage with other people and reflect with other people. Now, during a narcissistic relationship, the things that they do to you really does affect your cognitive thinking skills and causes cognitive dissonance within your mind, which makes it difficult for you to think rationally. And you will find that the longer you're away from these kinds of people, the more you can get your mind back on track, the more that fog lifts, the more you can see reality for what it is and get yourself back to who you are. There is a video on here that explains more about that. Now, no one thinks critically all the time, especially when our self-control is affected by anger, pain, resentment, grief or joy, or we are just being single-minded in that moment. Even people who are not narcissists can be single-minded in a moment. However, a narcissist rarely uses critical thinking for the good of others, only temporarily to serve themselves. This is why when you're trying to reach a compromise with them over something, they cannot see it from your point of view. They can only ever see it from their own. You might as well go blue in the face discussing the matter with a brick wall, as your thoughts, feelings or opinions are not the same as the narcissist. They are not listening to you. If they are actually listening to you and they don't agree with you, the more you push the subject, the more anger they feel that you don't see it their way, the more they act on impulse to cut you down. When narcissists are shown facts, they struggle to use critical thinking skills. Instead of they go for the gut instinct, resulting into that impulse behaviour, even if that gut instinct is wrong. And now we can all go against our gut instinct when we can't see what's happening clearly. That doesn't make you narcissistic. Usually you do it because you're trying to see the best in a person. Narcissists do it because they're trying to get their own way. The grandiose side of their personality disorder overrides their ability to critically analyse facts. So with some, it could simply be they are truly incapable of listening to what other people are trying to say. They are simply stuck within their own mindset without the ability to even think differently. If you cannot go no contact, which I always advise is best, as their thinking skills mixed with a lack of empathy and remorse makes for some of the most hurtful, toxic people there is out there. So with most, it truly needs to be no contact. Yet there are those on the lower end of the spectrum or that have minimal empathy within them somewhere. So here's a few ways to deal with them in conversations. Always look calm and collected. Try just looking just past their shoulder. Try not to make direct eye contact with them when they come at you with all the word salad. If it's face to face and you feel a need to respond, do not react to the vile things that they are saying to provoke you. Remember who they are and observe them. Knowing they are only saying things to provoke you, passing their own insecurities off onto you, do not absorb the words. Don't take them personally. Don't defend yourself. That is what they want and what they are doing. Instead, just say things like, you seem upset all the time. Is everything okay? Or you seem negative all the time. Are you okay? And leave them to it. Don't continue a conversation just to get drawn off topic. Just hit repeat of the original thing that you asked and stick to the topic. Do not let them draw you off topic, as they will try to twist it and turn it onto you. If you repeat the same thing, you'll watch them get more frustrated, because without that cognitive thinking or reflection, they get as frustrated as we do. It's just they act out more in negative ways. Shut them down by not reacting to what they're saying. If it's messages, again, don't go off topic. Do respond to whatever they are. Do not respond to whatever they are throwing at you. Just say what you're asking once and leave it. If they don't agree with you, there's nothing really you can say or do to change their mind. That is who they are. And the only way you can ever get them to do it is to make them think it was their idea in the first place. So again, if you're dealing with children and kids have something on, just message them. They'll be ready at 6. And if they come at you with that's just like you, you've said all that's needed to be said. Do not explain yourself. You already have. They didn't listen the first time, they'll not listen the second. Or when they bring the children home late, pick up late, again, act like it's not bothered you, because they do not see why you have a problem with them coming home late. All they see is it provokes you. And because they have anger and resentment towards you, they enjoy provoking you. Other phrases to say are, why would you think like that? Or, you're entitled to your point of view and I'm entitled to mine. So you're acknowledging to them that you get their point of view, but you're also letting them know that you don't agree. When you do say these things, make sure your face stays straight and keep your emotions hidden. Always look calm and collected. When they are not getting what they want from you, they get angry and they make themselves feel better by making you feel bad. Once you learn to do it, you'll know their games and it'll no longer affect you. It does take time, it does take practice, like learning anything new. At the start, you might need to get your reactions and emotions out. Just do not do it in front of the narcissist. Boundaries and no contact is best if all possible. Then, if not, do the above. You are worth so much more. You will recover and you will move forward into a much happier life. If you have any advice or tips on how you've dealt with a narcissist in your life, please do add it into the comments to help others. Just to give a little bit more understanding and clarification on how different people's minds perceive different things and how things are phrased to them. And there is people on the narcissistic personality disorder that are lacking in critical thinking and lacking in cognitive reflection. There is people not on the disorder that do also lack these thinking skills, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are all individuals. It's a case of that's who we are. But one of the studies done in this test to work out whether people had critical thinking skills or not was, one of the questions that I discovered on the internet was, if a bat and a ball cost $1.10 and the bat is $1 more than the ball, how much did the ball cost? Which, please add your answer into the comments, because I found this very interesting. And some people get the correct answer straight away. Some people, like myself, jump to the conclusion that the ball costs 10 cents. And then as I read further down the question, I was wrong. Ball actually costs 5 cents, which then got my mind thinking as to, how does the ball cost 5 cents? It can't cost 5 cents, because $1.05 makes $1.05, yet it costs $1.10 altogether. Which then got me looking, because I do like to find out what the actual answer is, and questioning friends and family members to see their perceptions and their points of view. One of my sons was brilliant. He said, well, you would think it costs 10. That's wrong, it costs nothing. So I was, why does it cost nothing? And he'd come to the conclusion that it was VAT that was added onto it. Spoke to someone else in Britain. Well, it costs 5p for a carrier bag in Britain. So, although it's in cents and dollars, they'd put that was the price of the carrier bag. And everyone was coming back with lots of different answers, lots of different viewpoints. And there was plenty of people that were really trying to actually figure it out and work out what the actual answer was, including myself. And then someone did come with the answer, and I almost understood what it meant, but I was still a little bit off. I still couldn't quite grasp it. And I have to admit, my brain took me a little bit longer than perhaps it should have to finally work it out. And what it was is how it is phrased to people. It's all about how sentences are structured and how communication is phrased to people, the way their mind works and how they think things through and solve problems. So if the question is phrased to you, because the question, it's the word more. The word more gets people. Your mind's been told that the bat costs $1. And then the word more and how it's structured, you've got your mindset on the bat is $1. So to make $1 10 cents, you think the ball is 10 cents. Whereas the question is, it's asking you how much more it costs. So if you rephrase the question to, if a bat and a ball costs $1 10 cents and the bat costs $1 5 cents, how much is the ball? You've got the answer. And people don't always understand it being put that way around. Now, when it comes to narcissistic people, they are that tuned in to their answer is the right answer. They cannot look at it from any other angle. Now, they might read that original question and come to the same conclusion instinctively, which most people do, that it is 10 cents. And they might be able to, for a minute, think, oh, but then they will revert back to their tunnel thinking of how they see something. So when it comes to communicating with people, sometimes it is just about finding the method that works for each person, so each person gets an understanding. And sometimes with narcissistic people, it's about keeping it as simple as possible so that, and I'm not saying they're stupid, because I myself needed it really, really simple to understand it. So I'm not accusing people of being stupid. I'm just saying that sometimes we need things to be simple so that we can gain more clarity. And when things become hard, it then becomes more difficult to understand things. As I say, not all narcissists are lacking in this thinking ability, and not all people that aren't narcissistic have this thinking ability. But if you are still trying to communicate, it's just another way for you to think about things to get your point of view across to them. And why it's always good to let them think that something was indeed their idea, because once they've got their idea, most narcissists are not changing their mind. Again, when it comes to the narcissistic personality disorder, it is on a spectrum. So there is those that are highly dangerous and you need to just go no contact and step away from them. And there is those that you can learn to manage your understanding of them and your understanding of yourself and be able to manage your time around them or limit your time around them. I do hope this video helps. I've gone on to a bit of a waffle there, so I do apologise for that. Thank you very much for listening. Ask any questions. I will do my best to answer, but it took me a long time to work that one out for myself. So I will try my best to answer. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.